Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use fluid head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun.
Ever since I first drove one of these Mark 1 Fabias a couple of years ago, and you know, we can't actually talk about that on the channel, I've tried to try a petrol one. And here we are. IBI, who has supplied a fair few cars for the channel actually now. One of them, the Suzuki Grand Vitara, has done particularly well. Has just got this. It's a 2006 Skoda Fabia 1.2 HTP Classic. It's a base model. He actually got it from Copart auction with the light damage that you'll see on the other side of the car, but he's actually replaced one of the doors and the other one just needs a bit of prep and a bit of painting, and so it will look differently when he's actually finished it. This car's done 29,000 miles, and it's even got an original Skoda key, as you can see, which has got no remote locking on it, because this is the Classic, which is the base model. When these cars came out in 1999, although they weren't actually launched in this country till the year 2000, see it is an HTP here, they were very modern looking cars. Now, as you can see, there is a little bit of light damage on here, which is why the car ended up at the sort of at the Copart auction. Although this door is a replacement, it just needs painting, and so does that, and that will be sort of improved as well. It will all look very nice when it's done like the other side. When these cars came out in 1999, they were actually on a platform that hadn't been used by any other car before, which was the 9N Polo and the HTP for Mark III. Now, some people would say, you know, the 9N Polo is a Mark IV, like me. Some people say it's a Mark V. Either way, it's the 9N. It's the one that came out in 2002, and then the Ibiza as well, and the Seat Cordoba, the Mark II Cordoba was also on this, as was the Fabia Saloon and Estate. So absolute poverty spec, wheel trims, unpainted door handles, unpainted door mirrors. We'll just open up. The interior of this car is lovely, actually. Just ignore the sort of fact that it needs a vacuum. That'll all be done, but nowhere, anywhere on anything. It does help, of course. We haven't got things like, you know, leather around the gear lever. Excuse me, leather on the gear lever here. And look at those blank switches. Look at all of those. This car's got some, you know, the sort of largest number of blank switches I think I've ever seen on anything. And as I said, it's done 29,000 miles exactly. So this is I suppose a facelifted Mark 1. It's quite near the end of production. That was in 2007. And we've got a tape player, and we've got no electric mirrors, no electric windows, but we do have air conditioning. I don't know if this was an option in this car or whether it was standard. I suspect that was an option. But, you know, there we go. And we've even got a trip computer, so, you know, we've got some fancy stuff. Although these you know, indicator and wiper stalks, this headlamp control, and, you know, these little controls here are just in everything that the Volkswagen Group were making at the time. Never been smoked in. As the ashtray. 12-volt socket down there. And just the one interior light, because that's all you need. Do we get a passenger mirror? Oh yes, it's actually covered up. Do we get a driver's mirror? No, you don't. Probably get that in some of the higher trim levels. But just a very, very user-friendly cabin, and it's got a soft touch dash. It's all very, very nicely laid out. That should probably have a sort of sticker on it there. I think that's to come off at some stage. But generally, the fabric's in really, really nice condition. Somebody has looked after this car before. Unfortunately, it did have damage on the doors on this side. It's actually quite spacious for a little car like this. Certainly a bit more so than something like, I don't know, Mark 5 Fiesta, something like that. Now Ebby's incredibly tall, he's far taller than me, which is why the seat's in that position. So what we're going to do is just go around the back and have a look in the boot. I think there's some sort of trim that needs putting back in here. Sort of door card or something that needs sorting out. Yeah, it's all there that needs sorting out, but the boot's very big. Similar in size really to something like a Golf Mark 4, really, very, very similar in size. You know, this was quite a spacious car when it was launched. It's pretty spacious now, to be honest. So yeah, this is the better side of the car. The doors are okay on here. So there we go. That's not bad actually. Headroom's okay. I'm just about sort of in there. You only get one grab handle. You don't get grab handles in the rear. And more windy windows. Brilliant. Little cup holder there, and hopefully you don't need an AA membership card or anything, because, well, they're generally quite reliable cars actually, these. Yeah, it's the most exciting thing is the jazzy interior fabric, but it's okay. I've actually got decent knee room. My head is quite close to the ceiling. If I was about an inch taller, then I would start to sort of brush it, but most people, that's absolutely fine. Right, I shall get my secret mission documents out and we will have a look and see if the glove box will take them. Okay, let's do it from this side. See if we can get them in. Oh yes. Oh yes, viewers. Brilliant. We're doing well today, and even that is chilled by the air conditioning, viewers. That's even better, and you know, they can go in there as well. You've got a little reflector for the door warding open. And again, this side more soft touch plastic and fabric on top of the door cards. One of the things that I've been talking about with Mr. David Waters from Scottish Car Enthusiasts and Trains TV is the fact that the Mark II Fabia doesn't have as nice an interior as the Mark I. You don't get soft touch dash plastics, and don't get fabric above the doors in one of those. Right, let's have a look under the bonnet at the 1.2 3-cylinder engine. So there we are. I don't know if this is supposed to have like a cover on top of it or something, but this is how it is. You see, it's just 3 cylinders, loads and loads and loads of room to work on. It's only a 1.2. There were 2 power outputs of this engine in the Fabia, 55 and 65 horsepower. As far as I understand it, this is the 65 brake horsepower version that came in 2003. It's really difficult to spot a facelifted one. This is a facelifted one that had come out in 2004. But I don't know what the differences are, viewers. Answer in the comment section below. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. There's just loads of room. And this coolant reservoir that was around in Volkswagen Group cars since the dawn of time is present in the engine bay. Yeah, I mean, it needs probably a little bit of a tidy up, but it's looking pretty good under here, to be honest. With some of the engines on these, they are cam belts, particularly the 1.4 16 valve engine, just so make sure if you are buying a Fabia that the cam belt has been changed at relevant intervals. For coil packs as well, on a lot of Volkswagen engines, they do fail, but I mean, there's only 3 of them here if you need to change all the coil packs, and that's not a difficult job. But yes, there we go. Even the bonnet stay is in remarkably good condition. Okay, let's go out for a little drive, shall we?
apologies for the light levels in here, viewers. The day is just not particularly conducive to sort of the right levels of light getting into the car, which is just one of these things that happens with filming sometimes. So here we are at the Grove, which is just near Watford. It's a very fancy hotel these days, but it was a British Rail training centre back in the 1960s and 70s, and there were lots and lots of old television series filmed here from the 50s through to the early 70s, things like, you know, the Saint, Champions, Department S, the Avengers, all that kind of stuff. That's why I like coming here, and also it's got a very nice driveway that you'll probably see some of the footage a little bit later. So anyway, that's all irrelevant to what we're doing today. The Fabia had a very, very wide choice of petrol engines, from a 1 litre up to a 2 litre. Now the 1 litre was only actually available for a few months at the beginning of sale in this country, and that generated 50 horsepower. I've heard one source that says that's actually an old OHV unit, which dated back to 1964, because Skoda actually came up with an engine themselves. It went into a lot of rear engine Skodas, and then modified form it went into things like the Favorite and the Felicia, and eventually in one of these it was available definitely in 1.4 with 68 horsepower, but in the 1 litre, if that is the old OHV unit, then it would generate just 50 horsepower, so not the fastest. By 2003, the old 1.4 with 68 horsepower, the OHV engine, that had been replaced by a pair of 1.2 engines. Now the 55 brake horsepower unit was only available in this Classic trim, but the 65 was available in a lot of different trims. It's actually quite a smooth engine. It's no Zetec SE engine from Ford, which would have been in the equivalent Fiesta Mark 6, and then we've driven a couple of those. But for just going around town, which is honestly what a lot of people who had a Fabia might be doing, then this is okay. You do have to rev it a little bit to make progress, but it's okay. I wouldn't like to take this on very long motorway journeys, but it's okay. Other options available for the engines were a 1.4 16-valve engine, which is a Vauxhall unit, or the Skoda one, that generated 75 horsepower, and then 80 horsepower from 2006. Until 2003, that was only available with an automatic gearbox. When the Sport trim was released, it was also available with a manual. There was also a 100 horsepower version of that 16-valve engine, which is relatively common, you can find them, but one that's very rare is a 2 litre with 115 horsepower. Now that was actually used in things like the Passat as well at the time, and I think also it dates back to the Mark III Golf GTI, but I could be wrong about that. It just sort of has a same capacity and the same power output as the one used in the Mark III Golf GTI 8-valve, but you know, I could be wrong about that. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and many, many other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. Yeah, 0 to 60 in this car, I think it's something like 15 seconds, and I can well believe it. Going round this big roundabout on the outskirts of Watford, certainly it's not the fastest engine. The thing I'm noticing sort of more is just how refined this car is. You know, the engine's thrumming away and everything, but it's actually really easy to drive. The steering is positive, the gearbox is okay. It's not Ford gearbox by any means, but it's all right. There's not the same kind of level of say sort of cabin vibration and things like that, and general noise you would have in, say, like a Polo Mark III, which is, you know, the sort of predecessor to this, because Skoda didn't make a car like this at all until 1999. They had you know, the old things on their own platform, like the Favorite and the Felicia. So just in comparison with something like that, and I have driven a Felicia, and it's so much more refined than one of those. It's just a very easy car to drive. It's no problem. The steering's relatively light, but it does
have a little bit more feedback than a lot of modern cars would have. I mean, I'm not going to win any speed records in this, but that's really not the point. Trim levels available in a Mark 1 Fabia were Classic at the bottom of the range, which is this, and then Comfort, later renamed Ambient, Elegance, which is the one I would go for, of course, and then some special editions like the blue line, the silver line, and the black line. There's also the sport model. I would like to talk about the VRS, but as that was only available with a forbidden fuel engine, I cannot. So here we are. Unfortunately, the light is a little bit rubbish as well, but we just go over the Grand Union Canal on this little bridge. Certainly with this engine in this configuration, this car is really best for town usage. You probably want the 1.4 16 valve or the 2 litre if you can actually find one, if you want to do longer journeys. And you know, myself, I'm someone who would like a bit more interior equipment. I mean, some of you, something like a Classic would be absolutely fine. You'd find that to be the most amazing car ever, and you don't want anything like electric windows and electric mirrors. You just just want, you know, what the cars were more like in the 90s, and you know, this Classic trim level would be perfect for you. And there are other people who this isn't the car's not much cup of tea. They don't like the look of it. Maybe it's just something that you don't like Volkswagen. Some people don't like them, but I've always quite liked Skodas. I don't know what it is about them. I've always just quite liked them, whatever origin that they are. And I think with something like this, ultra emission zone compliant car, as I think all Fabias were after 2003, it makes sense for a little run around. And you can tell this car's done really low mileage. Everything's really nice on it. Clutch and gearbox feel good. Suspension's not making any knocking noises. Steering is good. So yes, it's maybe not the most exciting car we've ever had on the channel, but for some people, it's exactly what they want. They want something that will just get on with the job, doesn't cost a lot to run, and is just nice and plain. And certainly this Fabia is exactly that. So viewers, the ultra basic Mark 1 Skoda Fabia, this example with just 29,000 miles on the clock. Is this something that you should consider with your hard-earned budget up to £1,000? Well, I don't see why not. I mean, this one might be for sale quite soon once they've got everything together and sorted out that sort of horrendous lack appeal and dents on the doors and things. But with all the thing that's been going on, the price of fuel and stuff like that, this car's very economical as well. This could be, yeah, it's got air conditioning as well, this particular example. Maybe this is your sort of thing. I mean, I would personally want a more powerful engine, and I want a higher trim level. That's just me. Some people of the more sort of, I don't know, Ian Seabrook persuasion, this may be you, or maybe not. The car was actually made in other places in the Czech Republic. It was made in Poland until 2002. Also in Bosnia, Kenya, Russia, and should we mention Ukraine. So a popular car and a big success for Skoda when these were new. And the Fabia continues to sell well into this day. The Mark IV of the Fabia is just out. I don't see why this shouldn't be a sensible purchase for someone for up to £1,000. I mean, obviously, just the usual checks on a car. Check the bodywork. Yes, we've checked the bodywork on this one, very much so. Check to see if it's been properly serviced. I don't think these are too bad for rust. We'll obviously still check for that because these cars are now of an age where that is starting to become a problem. And I don't know, just enjoy simple, basic motoring. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews. Thank you again to Ibby for supplying, I think, the 5th or 6th car we've had from him for the channel. And don't forget to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment below. If you wish to become a channel member, then there's a link in the description below. And we'll see you again soon for more inexpensive motoring.